Well, hello everyone and welcome to my Q&A video. The first thing I'm going to talk about is I've not answered all the questions that I've received, so I received a lot more questions than I expected to receive. But what I have made sure is that everyone who asked a question will have one of their questions answered. Or everyone who asked an appropriate question will have one of their questions answered. So really the only questions I haven't answered are from people who asked like 5 questions. So anyway, let's get on to the Q&A video. So my first question comes from @MattJonesGaming. Who is your favourite F1 driver? Well, that's an easy one. Lewis Hamilton. I just really like his attitude towards racing. His attitude towards his driving. I think he's just a very good driver. I actually think he is currently the best driver on the grid at the moment. In my opinion, I think if you put Vettel and Hamilton in the same car or something like that, then Hamilton will be the faster out of the two. Also, if you put Hamilton and Alonso in the same car, obviously this was proved in 2007, they were put in the same car, and Hamilton consistently outpaced Alonso. So this is why Hamilton's my favourite driver. My next question comes from @DMAD96 Red Bull. Best F1 track? Well, I have 3. Silverstone I'd say is my favourite out of the 3. I just really like its flow of corners, like the Maggots and Beckett section. I just really like the track. It's also a very fun track to drive on F1 2013 as well. My other 2 favourite tracks that are on the current F1 calendar are probably Spa and Circuit America. They both have a very good flow to them. The thing I'm looking forward to about Spa this year is with these new cars, will they be able to take Eau Rouge flat out like they have been able to in like the past 5 years? So those are my favourite F1 tracks. My next question comes from @LukeJulian. What is your favourite F1 race ever and why? Well, there have been some very good races I've watched, but there has to be one that stands out. Brazil 2008. You can't get any more exciting than that. The championship decided in the last corner of the last lap on the last race of the season. Absolutely thrilling. And also that was the race that Lewis Hamilton won the title as well. So that's why my favourite F1 race ever is Brazil 2008. My next question comes from XJordy97X, or Psycho Squish as many people know him by. What made you want to get into YouTube? Well, that's a hard one. Basically, I think it's kind of Into the Barrier. I'm kind of inspired by Into the Barrier. That's what my F1 Online Exaggeration series is mainly inspired by. But I thought it would be great if people could see my experience on F1 games and in my league races, and that's what made me want to get into YouTube. @DMAD96 Red Bull is the person who asked my next question. Who will win the World Cup? To be honest, I think Brazil are going to do it this year. I think they've been waiting for a World Cup for quite some time. I think this year will be their year. I think in terms of England, obviously they lost against Italy, but I think if they can get past the group stages, which I think is really in question, they could be in for their best World Cup in years. Obviously, if they don't, then it will be their worst World Cup in years. But I think Brazil are going to do it because I think they have a really good team. I think they have the best team, to be honest, that there is in the World Cup. So I think Brazil are going to do it this year. My next question comes from @the_F1 Show. Chicken burgers or chips? Chicken burgers, I'd say. My next question comes from @DMAD96 Red Bull. Will you play other games other than F1? Well, I keep meaning to upload some R Factor or R Factor 2 content, but I haven't really, just because I'm lazy, to be honest. But I think I will probably upload R Factor or R Factor 2 content in the future, if I get the time. I might even start a series on R Factor or R Factor 2 if I get the time. My next question comes from @StopMat1998. Vettel or Maldonado? Vettel, and that is saying something, because Maldonado, I think he's just a danger to other drivers. I think the FIA should seriously consider giving him a race ban if he continues to cause incidents like he has been in the past 3 years. Because then if not, then one day something really nasty might happen. He might cause a really nasty accident one day, like he almost did with Gutierrez. It was actually a very nasty accident. It was lucky that Gutierrez was okay after that accident, but I think the FIA should seriously think about doing something with Maldonado, because he's turning into a danger to other drivers, in my opinion. My next question comes from at the F1 show. Perez or Hulkenberg? About the same, I'd say. I just really like the team. Force India as a team. So I'd say about the same. I wouldn't care if Force India won a race, I wouldn't care which one of them won. All I hope is that Force India win a race in the future. I don't mind whether it's Perez or Hulkenberg. I just like if Force India won a race, because Force India, Hamilton's my favourite driver, but Force India are my favourite team. I just really like their attitude to have built a potentially race-winning car with half the budget of teams such as Ferrari or Red Bull. You know, I think it will be quite hard for them to win a race this year, considering Mercedes' pace. My next question comes from at Wesley11. What is the best goal you scored in PE? Well, this is basically at school what he's talking about. In PE lessons at school. Obviously, some people don't know this, but I'm not the best football player, so when I even get a touch of the ball, let alone score a goal, is quite some feat in terms of my standards. But basically, I'd say my best goal ever was basically I'd managed to chip the ball over the goalkeeper into the goal. I'd say that was my best goal ever. My next question comes from at the F1 show. The F1 show or Hungry Panda 78? I'd say the F1 show, because it's really good that it's really good that you are able to get some guests in to discuss the recent things that have happened in F1. My next question comes from at DMAD96 Red Bull. Best F1 driver of all time? Ayrton Senna, I'd say, by far. I think if that tragic incident at Imola didn't happen, he would have won at least 2 more titles. So I'd say Ayrton Senna is the best driver in the history of F1. My next question from at StopMat1998 is, do you know what KERS is? Time to get all technical. Basically what KERS is it's a system that takes the energy from braking and harnesses it to give the driver an extra 80 brake horsepower at just the push of a button. My next question comes from at XJordy97X. Who would you say is your biggest rival in league racing? That's a hard one. In terms of general, I'd say probably at StopMat1998. There have been many times where we have been caught up in a battle. So I'd say, so that's the reason why I'm saying him, because ever since I started league racing, pretty much all the leagues I've raced in, he's been in. So I'd say in terms of general, I'd say we've been quite close in the championships for leagues in many times as well. So I'd say Stockman 1998. In terms of Formula Xbox, I'd say Drastic Midget, because last season we had 2 great battles in Bahrain and Brazil, and we actually finished level on points. I only beat him because I had a 4th place and he didn't. So I'd say in Formula Xbox, Drastic Midget. My next question comes from at RLSTRM. Do you see anyone other than Mercedes winning at Canada or the rest of the season? Well, this one's recorded after Canada, so yes, obviously I do, because that's already happened. Ricciardo won in Canada. For the rest of the season, I think it's going to be quite hard. I wouldn't be surprised if Mercedes does win every race for the rest of the season, but I think there's like a 50% chance that we're going to see another race winner other than a Mercedes this season. My next question comes from at BrandonFeely10. Do you know what a dive bomb is? Yes, I do. Basically, it's where you move from like 12 car lengths, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, from like 8 car lengths back that they don't expect, contact is made, and sometimes it results in the other driver spinning. Sometimes it works, sometimes the other driver is aware to it. So that's my definition of a dive bomb. My next question from @StopAt1998 is A Christmas Carol or Of Mice and Men? A Christmas Carol, I'd say. I just much prefer that story to Of Mice and Men. When I first heard about Of Mice and Men, I thought, oh, this is an interesting story. But I just got bored of it after a while. A Christmas Carol, I just much prefer the story. I'm not saying that I hate sad stories, I just much prefer A Christmas Carol because it's celebrating Christmas and everything. It's a good happy story. That might have been a bit of a weird way of saying it, but... My next question comes from @DMed96Red Bull. Who will win GP2 and GP3? GP2, I think it's going to be Jolyon Palmer. He's been on the podium in all races but one, so I think Jolyon Palmer will win. But you never know, we saw what happened with Stefano Coletti last year. In my opinion, I think Jolyon Palmer will win. GP3, that's a hard one. We're only one weekend into the season. I think we'll have a better idea this weekend in the Austrian rounds. I think the winner of the GP3 series will be probably someone like Alex Lynn. My next question comes from @StopAt1998 is Hockenheim or Nürburgring? Hockenheim, in terms of layout, I much prefer the layout of Hockenheim. It has much more exciting corners. But Nürburgring, I prefer in terms of racing. Because to be honest, Nürburgring has produced much more exciting racing than Hockenheim in the past few years. My next question comes from @ReviewTRJ. How long have you known Stopmat? Well, I've known him since like year 2. But I'd say first actually became friends with him in like year 8 when I found he was into F1, and in fact if it wasn't for him I probably wouldn't be league racing today, because he got into league racing before me on Xbox, and he was telling me about leagues like Mammal League and Formula Xbox, and I thought, judging from his tweets, I thought I'd like to be part of this. I got F1 2013 for Xbox, or F1 2012 at the time, and joined those 2 leagues. My final question of the Q&A is from @Wesley11. What would win in a fight? 50 duck-sized bears or 1 bear-sized duck? I'd say the bear-sized duck, because he'd probably have the duck-sized bears down in like one move, because it's so much bigger. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my Q&A video. Thank you so much for subscribing, as I've said before. You'll see more info on when my 50 subscriber live stream is going to be on my Twitter account at HamiltonFan1705. So if you want more info on that, then check that out. And also, if you want to join in on this live stream, then please put your gamer tag in the comment section. We have no idea what day or time it's going to be yet, so not expecting any, like, at this point, we have no idea what time. And finally, there's still space for 6 drivers in Formula Phenomenon. It starts this Thursday. There's a test race tomorrow. So if you want to apply, the application form is in the link in the description. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in my next video.